Morning guys, it's the Swordfish once again with some more Hearthstone gameplay. I was about to say Dota 2. With some more Hearthstone gameplay. This time I'm going to show you how I built the Token Druid deck, which I made the variation, the Token Druid deck. I'll show you right now. As I said in the last game, though, this should be clear. There are two ways to play the Token Druid deck, and there isn't like a middle ground. There is either a super aggressive kind of game, play in which you start from the beginning with a really strong hand and then you snowball out of control and you beat them early, or the other one, which is you play a almost control kind of deck, in which you kind of take a beating for a while and then finally come back and destroy the enemy hero. So let me show you how the two strategies are played. Okay, so to start with, let's start with the cards which increase the mana gain. Wild Growth and Innervate, I have two of each. Wild Growth, one of them could be substituted. I admit it, it's a possibility. I'm considering it, but for now it's been working really well with two, and two Innervates are definitely necessary. The idea behind these cards is that Wild Growth, if you use it early, will give you a mana advantage, right? And Innervate will always give you a mana advantage, regardless, right? So a really good strategy, for example, is Innervate and turn 1 Imp Master. That will already, like I said, you will start with this really aggressive stance in which you can snowball out of control. Obviously, it won't always work. You might get countered, but still. And Wild Growth, on the other hand, will allow you to have a... Wild Growth, on the other hand, will allow you to have a really strong kind of... a really strong, like, you know, a start, like, no, not start, sorry. A really not a good start, you know, like a very... kind of taking a beating stance, but then when it's turn 4 and you have 6 mana, your opponent has 4 mana, he has a hard time countering whatever you have. And if you combine these, you know, if you use both Wild Growths and like 2 Innervates, you can summon an Ixia super fucking early, like something like that, and it's really devastating to your opponent. So the whole point is staying ahead of your opponent, especially in terms of mana, to then destroy him, right? Okay. This is why the issue we have with Wild Growth and Innervate is that they are cards which really don't help you out at all in terms of board advantage. In the sense that, for example, you use Innervate, right? And you get the usual things you will do is like get an Innervate and then get an early Druid of the Claw, for example. You will have no cards in your hands if you use, like, say you get Druid of the Claw turn 1 with 2 Innervates, right? That's great. Druid of the Claw is super powerful. But then, say they like freeze you, or they get rid of this guy relatively early. You have no card advantage, no hand advantage, and they are able to, you know, they do have the hand advantage because they took like 2 turns to kill, you know, what you summon in 1, and you know, you can't do anything at this point. More importantly, Wild Growth is definitely a card that works this way, in which you use it and then nothing happens until like a couple turns. It's like a preparation spell, but you have nothing. You know, so you don't draw a card, you don't do anything of the sort. So Wild Growth is definitely a double-edged sword in that sense, that it prepares you for the future, but almost it almost limits your ability to do combos just simply by, you know, taking away your hand advantage. Which is why you need drawing cards in this deck. That is why I include the Ancient of Lore. Drawing 2 cards for, you know, seems like not much because it's like, it's just one more card than drawing 1 card, right? But it's incredibly powerful, and you can get, it's like refilling your whole hand. And since you have the Wild Growth and the Innervate, he can be summoned relatively early. It's a 5/5. It's a pretty decent card in that sense. We also have the Azure Drake. Increase the spell damage, which will allow you to use the Wrath, the 2 instead of 1 damage and draw a card, the 2 damage and draw a card, which will kill a lot of minions, because you can probably summon the Azure Drake early if you play well. And the whole idea is that you can then draw a card with Wrath, which is great. So, you know, these are the cards that you use for card draw. Azure Drake is an all-around great card anyway. It also increases the damage that Swipe does. It's a 4/4. It does draw you a card. It's great in all senses. So Azure Drake can be included in almost all decks and still be a powerful card. So that's it. As for Wrath, it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, it deals 3 damage to a minion, which can be great early game removal, or like I said, help you draw a card if you're playing against, you know, guys that are summoning 1/1s or whatever. Usually, preferably, I don't want to use that though, unless you have the Azure Drake and you can kill 3/2 with a Wrath. But you know, there are cases which you'll have to, if you can't use the Shapeshift because you used it on another minion, or if they're playing in a very aggressive deck, Wrath will help you out a lot. The issue is this deck gets relatively countered by aggressive decks. However, that's why I included some of the great taunting abilities we have. We have Defender of Argus, which will to start give your tokens, which is what you're summoning in this deck, taunt. Which obviously, by the way, let's start by saying the token creators are Imp Master and Valid Teacher in this deck. Obviously in Onyxia too. But the Defender of Argus will give you your tokens taunt. Shield Master is a taunt within himself, a great healthy taunt with a lot of health, and the 3 damage can kill most early minions, so it allows you to take a quick beating and not get you too far behind. And the Druid of the Claw, obviously a great card, 4/6, and you can also use it with a charge option and destroy your enemy hero really easily. Also, you can combine this guy since you can get the wild growths and the innervates. You can combine the Druid of the Claw pretty easily with Mark of Nature. Mark of Nature will allow you to get a good taunt, or help the Master in production. Like it can get him to a 1/9. Yes, he'll be easily taken down, but it can help him in production if you have the advantage. But most importantly, something which I've won many games with is the 4 attack, which you can give to the Druid of the Claw charged, and it's like will completely destroy in combination with Mark of Nature. It's only 8 mana. With the 2 innervates, you can do this at turn 4. That's a lot of damage. So if you have an early game advantage, you're snowballing out of control. Oof, this can really win you the game, pretty much. Then of course the token buffing cards, which are in every token deck, which should be Power of the Wild. This serves 2 purposes. Can summon a 3/2 Panther in case you don't have any minions early game, which is possible because this deck doesn't have too many minions. It will also help the Valid Teacher because it's a spell. Obviously, Innervate, Wild Growth. There's a lot of spells in this deck because the Valid Teacher obviously needs to get triggered. And the +1/1 will really help you out. Something I really love about the Power of the Wild is that if you use it with Valid Teacher, the +1/1 effect, it will summon his Valid Apprentice and then use the +1/1. So that's a really useful thing to know. So you can use it without having too many apprentices, and this will get you a minion at 2/2. And obviously buff the Valid Teacher. So this is always a great card to use in combination with the Valid Teacher. Also costs exactly as much as Innervate gives you, or the advantage you'll get from 2 wild growths. So it's really relatively easy to use. So Power of the Wild will either help you early game or really win you late game. It's a great card in all senses. Mark of Nature I've already explained, but just to a little more, it can really help your token producers by either buffing up another guy and making him a taunter, or buffing up themselves and making them kind of invincible. And against decks like Shaman or Shaman, Mage, maybe Warlock, X with removal spells such as Siphon Soul, Polymorph, Hex, maybe Assassinate on Rogue, but not as common as a card lately I've seen. Mark of Nature will be used on one of their tokens to make it like a 1/5 or a 2/6 or whatever, depending on what you've used on it before. And it will really save the ass of the Valid Teacher, force him to use a Polymorph on a card which is really not that powerful, but still kind of you need to remove it. And it'll be great against those kind of decks. On the other hand, it can also be used on like Imp Master or Imp Master is great with Mark of Nature because it can summon a total of 9 minions with his ability, so it's amazing. Also make him a relatively powerful taunt, some kind of a Mogulshan Warden with only 6 mana, which is pretty good. Or use it on the Valid Teacher, like I said, to make it a 3/9, which is devastating to the enemy team if they don't have removal. Also, more importantly, it's a spell. Like if you see the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cards, 12 actually, are spells. This deck has a lot of spells, 12, 13, 15, 15 spells, which is half the deck. So that's a lot of producing cards for Valid Teacher. And the fact that it's a spell that buffs Valid Teacher can be used in combination with it to save its ass, something like that. So always a great card to use as well. Then we have Savage Roar. I mean, this is the card that if you're making a token Druid is what it's based on. Savage Roar is a great card in all senses. I think it's better than Bloodlust just because it costs only 3 mana. And if you're probably not gonna win if you have like 3 tokens, so you need a little more. But it does give you a character, your hero to attack. So if you do the math, actually, a Bloodlust with 2 minions will deal as much damage as a Savage Roar with 2 minions, just because you have the character to attack with. So that's to be taken into consideration. And then from then on, Bloodlust only gives 1 extra per per minion. So it's not like it's really underestimated that the mana cost of Savage Roar is really low. Can be used as a control spell in some cases as well. And obviously it's a standard in all minion decks. All token decks, sorry. All token Druid decks. A master, pretty self-explanatory, token creator. Soul of the Forest, another token creator, obviously, but initially will work really well with your shitty tokens. And it'll give the opponent the choice of, do I kill these master tokens and then get better tokens? Or do I just leave them on the field and allow them to kill me? Or same thing with Valid Teacher tokens, or the best combination is an Ixia. Because the thing is, I've done this before, Soul of the Forest can combine with 2 Innervates to really wreck your fucking opponent, or even Innervate Coin if you have if you're at 10 mana, which I've done before, because you really have to save your coin in this kind of deck to make combos. So Soul of the Forest can combine with an Ixia, and then your opponent has a really tough choice of whether to kill your whelps or not. Swipe. This is a great removal spell in general. Can combine with a Azure Drake to be the best removal spell ever, with a 5 damage to one guy and 2 to everything else. It's pretty much like a better form of Consecrate. And you can combine it with Azure Drake. Also, like I said, within the range of the 2 Innervates, so you can do an Azure Drake swipe combo at turn 5 already, which can really help you get from behind. And, you know, in general, just a great card. Also, a possible finisher. You can combine it with Savage Roar, for example, and then Innervate to get two swipes and 1 Savage Roar, or 2 Savage Roars, 1 swipe. Either way, definitely a powerful possible combo. And I mean, 4 damage is forced to be reckoned with, especially to the enemy hero. It's I haven't used it as a finisher, but it's a possibility always. Defender of Argus will get you the taunts, like I said, and will buff up your tokens. So there's nothing. I mean, this guy is just lovely in all senses. People used to use Dark Iron Dwarf, or some people like some Fear Protector just because of the mana cost. But this one, the +1 health will just make him a nightmare for heroes like Druids or Rogues, especially Rogues, definitely Rogues, and Druids somewhat too. But also mages, you know, any card that can ping you is gonna have a hard time with Defender of Argus. And if they can't ping you, that's even worse for them. Like shamans have a hard time beating this because they become the tokens become totem killers, and then it's like really hard to deal with this. Senju Shieldmaster, like I said, taunt. It's pretty simple. Valid Teacher, token creator, Azure Drake, I've already talked about this. Door to the Claw, same thing. Ancient Lore, the 5 health is a counter to hunters. And the draw 2 cards, like I said, is to refuel yourself. I mean, pretty self-explanatory card. But the 5 health should not be underestimated. It saved my life against Hunter decks, because this deck kind of works similarly to Hunter decks. So often, 5 health is not enough to save your ass against a Hunter deck. But what 5 health does in this deck is allow you to survive 1 more turn to get the super fucking wombo combo out. And I remember once I used the Ancient Lord 1 turn to get 2 cards. The second turn I used the 5 health. And then I used the wombo combo. He was at like a 20 health. And I completely destroyed him. So, definitely a force to be reckoned with. And, you know, you can't underestimate the Ancient of Lore. Just because the 5 health can allow you to survive 1 more turn, which is most of the time all you need against most heroes. And Onyxia, the finisher. I mean, a great token creator in general. If you get it early, it's devastating. It's still an 8/8 for a 9, which is pretty good. Yeah, I mean, considering War Golem is 7/7 for 7, it is like 8/8 for 8 will be the normal in the vanilla test. So, and 9 for 8/8 plus all the whelps of summons. If you can get this out really early, it's definitely devastating and will completely destroy your enemy team. And you get this guy out with Savage or something of the sort the next turn, and it's like GG always. And they tend to center on either Onyxia or the whelps because it's hard to kill all of them. So because I mean, if you use area spells, you probably don't have enough for Onyxia. Actually, yeah. I mean, unless you have the only area spell I can imagine is like Equality Consecrate, something of the sort. So always be careful with that. Besides that, it's also wasting an equality because it will only kill the Onyxia. So you know, it's definitely a gamble to summon this guy because it can be removed relatively easily with area spells. At least all his minions will be, but it forces your opponent to be on the defensive for a while, which is all you need to completely destroy his face. And like I said, this deck is based on some pretty clear principles. Either you are very aggressive early game, or you win with a wombo combo, which is the whole point of the deck. That's why it's okay to be behind. Like you saw in my game, I was behind for a while. I didn't know what to do, and that's why it's important to have the taunters to be able to not get completely destroyed when you're behind. And then once you have the mana to do so, completely destroy the enemy team with a simple combo, and you win. And that's the power of the Token Druid. Countered pretty much only by hunters because they unleash the dogs, and maybe a couple area spells. It is possible to counter him, but for now, at least the levels I'm at, which is 12, I think, yeah. Well, now I'm 13, but I think I was 12 before. It works really well. It's a really good deck. So consider using this. Feel free to use this, of course. And hopefully I'll see you guys next time with some more Hearthstone action. So join me. Subscribe to my channel, etc., etc. If you want to see more guides, more decks, etc. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys soon. Honestly. See you guys.